All right, so we talked a little bit about electricity generation, that kind of stuff. So I'd like to look at several different places. So one is China. The next one would be Texas. I live in Texas, right? And the other one, which sounds interesting, is California. So let's get into it. Okay, China Electric. And when I actually looked up the numbers, it kind of surprised me, but I guess it shouldn't because we've already heard this before from other places. All right, China electricity, 60% from coal. As it turns out, China is a big coal producer. Okay, so that makes some sense. So 60% coal. Now, what I find interesting is the rest of this is not, well, actually, I said that wrong. So hydroelectric, 13 to 14%. Now, it looks like for renewables, solar and wind, it's more solar than wind. But that is the rest of their electricity generation. Now, they did say that China's working towards going nuclear. I don't know. We'll see. Okay, so the other part I found interesting is they actually have a goal of being carbon neutral by 2060. Did I get that right? I think so. So their goal is to no longer use any fossil fuels, if that's what I understand carbon neutral to mean. Okay, the one other thing I looked at, because I had the impression that China was just getting into battery electric storage systems. They actually have 100 gigawatts of battery electric storage systems. Very interesting. Okay, so wrapping back around to the coal part, it's pretty obvious where, at least part of it, that leads to a lot of pollution. But their goals are to get rid of all that. Okay. Okay, so on to Texas. Now, obviously, Texas doesn't really compare to China territory wise or population wise, I believe. China's what, the second biggest country, something like that? But since I live in Texas, it just felt more comfortable to say. And Texas is recognized as an oil and gas state in the U.S. Okay, natural gas generation, 50%, which makes some sense. I mean, we produce a lot of natural gas here, so use what we have, right? In fact, if you look at what's going on with the Giga Texas, the Tesla factory, they're adding there's a lot more substation activity there at Giga Texas because of all the computers. And if you look right across the river, there's the natural gas generation station. So interesting. Another very interesting thing here I found was 25% of our energy comes from wind. Yes. Coal is still 13%. We have around 7% nuclear and around 5% solar. I was kind of surprised by that, but okay, there it is. And our battery electric storage systems, 12 gigawatt hours. Okay. Now, like I said, it's not quite fair to compare these numbers because it's not the same kind of thing. But then again, the U.S. is not going to be all that big either compared to China. Okay. Okay, so the other U.S. state I picked was California. I mean, California and Texas are kind of in competition for who's bigger GDP wise, but okay. Obviously, Texas is bigger territory wise. California electricity, 37% natural gas, 10% nuclear, 15% hydro, although there was a caveat with that saying, well, we're in a drought, so maybe not so much hydro. The renewables make up 38%. So solar is increasing a fair amount, and wind is a major resource, but they didn't tell me what it is. Okay, whatever. It is what it is. Okay, so our battery electric systems, they have 15 gigawatts. So in some ways, oh, that's what that number means. In some ways, the story of California and Texas is pretty parallel. Just different, but very similar. Okay, so what I'm hoping to get to when I'm finished with all this is show where the U.S. is, at least in relative terms, Texas and California, because they kind of lead the country, I think. I mean, you can dig up other numbers, prove me wrong. That's fine. I'm okay with that. What really led me here is I've been talking about China and talking about how China was going more solar, more wind. And they are. But they still have 60% coal generation for electricity. So they got a long ways to go. But at least they have a goal to get rid of pollution. Okay, so for those of you wondering where the numbers came from, all I did was Google it, and they provided these numbers. Although the renewal generation was kind of vague. So that's where I'm getting these numbers from.